Okay, how about now? Can you hear me? Moonchild, what's up? Can you hear me now? Sorry, of course, you're gonna have technical difficulties. Anytime you have something scheduled, something has to mess up. So, all right, we're 5 by 5. Welcome to Battlefield production. StreamYard was not working there for a second, so I apologize for that. Um, the video didn't want to play for me on my side, so Murphy's Law. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen. So, welcome back to another Battlefield production live, veteran voices. And today we have a very special guest, someone that I served with. This is Jenkins, and she was a chaplain assistant. And we're going to go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Jenkins, how are you?
Hey, good.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but
Hey, it all
that's,
works out.
yeah. That's what happens when you do show business, I guess. So, before we dive in, Jenkins, are there any topics you'd prefer to avoid today?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right. So, what motivated you to join the military?
Actually, I was adopted, and my biological father was in the army, and so I always wanted to do it for him. And then found out that my adopted family had generations as well. So it was kind of I killed two birds with one stone. So
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. So, family basically kind of motivated you
yeah.
into joining. Okay. Um, Obviously, she served with me, so I don't really have to ask her this question. She was in the army. So, what MOS role did you serve in? And I did say it
A
earlier.
I was a 56 Mike, which is a chaplain assistant. Um, it was good, but it was bad at the same time. So,
Mm,
it was a catch 22. It's one of those MOSs that my main goal was to supply religion needs and education on the different ones that were representative in the unit. And also, I was part of a team that did notifications when loved ones were deceased. And I did a lot of counseling and stuff like that. So everybody always thought my job was easy, but they didn't realize the hard part behind it.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that before the interview started. I was like, us in the service that see a chaplain assistant, because what most people don't know is a chaplain is not supposed to carry a firearm. And the chaplain's assistant is kind of like the bodyguard to the chaplain, and that's all that we really see as the chaplain assistant is the one that carries the gun and you know um, make sure that the chaplain is safe, and if ever took fire, the chaplain assistant is the one that's supposed to fire back, not the chaplain. So that's the part that we always saw, but we didn't see the hard part, the emotional and the stressful part that you had to do. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
then when you have a chaplain that you don't get along with, but you still have to protect them, you're like, maybe I'll just let a bullet hit today. I'm just joking. It's just like
obviously,
with your spouses. When you have a spouse, you're like, just one day, I just want her to have a good smack, or I want him to have a good smack, just so I can be satisfied for just a minute.
yeah. Don't say anything, chaos, in the chat. I know you're watching, babe, but don't say nothing.
Who?
Because Brood for Chaos is actually my fiance. So
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, she's watching and she's probably like, "Yep, there's some times that I wanted to just take that pillow and put it right over him when he's sleeping because he looks so peaceful."
Yeah.
Yeah, got Moonchild to start laughing about that one. So, what one of the questions I ask everybody is, what's your initial training experience like? Which most people don't know. It's going to be different for each individual.
Yeah. So with females, there's only certain places that we can do basic training. Fort Jackson and Fort Leonard Wood are the two places that females can do their basic training.
Mm-hmm.
Males, they can go all over.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, different. So one was extremely cold and one was extremely hot. So it's like you never, you got the wind of the draws. So, but for me, I got to experience both. I did my basic training at Fort Leonard Wood in the dead of winter.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And then I did my AIT, which is, if you don't know what AIT is, it's advanced training for your MOS, specific training for your MOS that you chose. And so that was at Fort Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And there I learned all the basic information on different religions and how to conduct, services and holidays and special occasions and stuff like that for them.
Mm-hmm.
um it was very, at first it was very hard. I wasn't It was hard for me, not so much to adjust to the time and being told what to do, when to do it, and all that. Is I was a little bit older than most. I was in my early 20s when I went in,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a bunch of little 18-year-olds that just came home from mommy and daddy and didn't want to listen to mommy and daddy's rules, so they joined the military, which didn't make no sense. But then they wanted to whine and get out, wanted mommy and
Mm-hmm.
daddy to protect them. So
Right.
that was more annoying than anything. And so, but I learned a lot about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I eat my vegetables like I'm told. So, and anybody that knows, especially who's in the army, their favorite word is behoove.
Mm-hmm.
So we behoove you to do this, we behoove you to do that. And if you don't know what behoove means, it means we recommend you to do it, because if not, you're gonna pay the consequences.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you went to Jackson as well. So, are the rumors true about relaxing Jackson, or is that just something that everybody made up?
oh, for basic training, I heard it was, but for us, they they because they didn't want us to people to think that we were slackers per se.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on. We didn't get anything, and then the worst thing there is the fire ants, and we had to do PT in those stupid fire ants piles and everything. And it wasn't until our drill sergeant got bit by one did they decide to go inside and do PT inside. But she's like, it don't matter, it's just gonna make you stronger, it's just gonna make you stronger, just get eaten. We're like, yeah, okay. You
No.
get eaten by one and we're automatically inside.
Right. Right. Yeah. You got eaten up by 1,000 of them, and she gets
Yeah.
eaten up by one, and she's like, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah,
So,
but tells
uh,
us to be tough.
mhm. It's like, "Hey, drill sergeant, you do realize what you're saying is hypocritical, right?"
Yeah.
uh, so, did you have any preconceived expectations that changed once you were in?
Um, I kind of knew that it was gonna be rough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will have to say this, and all of us that have been in the military know what I'm about to say is kind of funny. My recruiter basically told me straight up everything except for while I was at Fort Leonard Wood, I for the next few months I was going to be living in the back of a cattle trailer. So,
Mm-hmm.
but he straight up told me, he's like, they're gonna get in your face. You're not gonna get a lot of sleep. You're gonna be doing things, and you're pushing your body to extreme limits. And so I kind of was lucky in a way, because my recruiter prepared me. Where a lot of recruiters I know don't prepare you. They just do their bare minimum and put you basically in so they can get their number quotes. But
Right.
my recruiter, he had me sharp. He had me sharp going in and prepared me basically, like I said, for everything except for what was called 0 day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, when I got there, I was kind of used to, people not liking the way I do things and stuff. So, when I had 4 or 5 drill sergeants around me yelling at me at different times and stuff like that, I was able to tune it out, and just kind of not, and it made them mad because I wasn't reacting to them, but which got more, but eventually they
Mm-hmm.
left me alone and went to the little 18, 19-year olds that were crying
Mm-hmm.
because it was more fun watching them cry.
Right. Yeah, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is known as a shark attack, which they had taken away for a while,
Yeah.
um, and then realized the benefits of the shark attack, which when you're in combat and you're under a lot of stress, that's basically what the shark attack simulates without actually being under direct fire.
Yeah.
So it gives you that stress. And when I was in, I was told by my uncle who actually went through. He said the when you get shark attack, the person you actually listen to is the drill sergeant in front of you, not the one to your left or right or behind you. You listen to the drill sergeant in front of you. If he tells you to put your bag down, you put your bag down. Don't listen to the other ones because they're gonna say contradicting, contradicting things. So
They,
I was kind of prepared for that too. You know,
yeah. And
but
I
it
love
is
the ones
funny.
that weren't. Because I'm trying to not laugh as I'm getting yelled at. I'm trying to not laugh when the one next to me is getting yelled at. And honestly, that's the only time that I've seen all the drill sergeants at once. And then after that, when like training started, you only seen the ones that you were only ones that were in your company.
Hmm. Right, right. So, what was a typical day like in your job?
Um, well, typically me and the chaplain met in our office. Whether it was at, we actually had two offices. We had one in the unit and we had one at the chapel that
Hmm.
was on post. Typically, we would meet at the unit office and go over things for the day, like if there was specific things that we got tasked to do, because we were the only ones that seemed to be tasked that had supposedly no time on their hand, had all the time on their hands in the world, but yet we didn't. But then after I got done with my normal task, honestly, it's supposed to be lunchtime, but I never really took lunch. After I got done basically doing the morning task in the unit, I would go and spend the rest of the afternoon visiting the soldiers and stuff, and taking, yes, candy to them to sweeten them up, because that was my job. You guys all look forward to the candy, because when I came, I always had candy or some
Hmm.
kind of treat for you guys.
Hmm.
And people always ask me why I did that. And I was like, that was my way of, helping morale and stuff, and boosting it and giving us, because chaplains and chaplain assistants, some of them didn't have the best reputation, because we're supposed to do certain things and stuff and everything, but at the same time, just like any MOS, you get good ones and bad ones,
Hmm.
and I've crossed paths with both, good and bad. And
Hmm.
I've crossed paths with lazy ones too that didn't do what they're supposed to do. But basically, a chaplain assistant, our biggest thing was to keep morale up. That was our biggest goal that we were
Hmm.
taught, was to keep morale up. And whether that was taking, like I said, some candy just to please, just to make you guys smile each time you see me, or to inform you if we're having like special occasions that you guys get to go to, like a dance or a trip or anything to help you guys boost your morale. That was our job.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, you were a morale booster, not and it wasn't just always centered around religion, which most people probably had preconceived notions that that was it. That's
Yeah.
all you guys did was just religious stuff, but it was all about the morale too. Um, now you said earlier that you would notify and prepare for the fallen. Can you go into kind of like what you did?
So with that, um, whew, um, basically when someone passes away, um, there's contacts, emergency contacts
Hmm.
that we fill out information for. And let's say the parents are divorced, which wasn't uncommon.
Hmm.
A team would go out to the mother's home, a team would go out to the father's home at the same time. And the team usually consists of like four individuals, um, a representative of the unit, a representative of the post, a chaplain assistant or a chaplain, um, and then also a representative of um, the military per se, just another person to fill in that spot.
Hmm.
We have a card on our. We have a card that we read to them to inform them, so that way everybody gets informed with the exact same thing. The only thing that changes is the soldier's name.
Hmm.
Um, the thing is when we deliver this news to them, we have to stand there with no emotion, no nothing. And I still remember my first one was a 18-year-old young kid, and his parents didn't want him to join, but he wanted to do it because he was having a lot of stuff, a lot of problems at home because they just recently got divorced and stuff like that. And the mother, as a female, is kind of hard because we do rely on a lot of our nurturing. We're nurturers.
Hmm.
So this mother, I'm telling her that her son, just got done with AIT and basic and got shipped over to Iraq and got killed. We're not allowed to tell him how or anything like that.
Hmm.
That's later on in the process. And we're not supposed to veer off from what's on our card to say. And the mother just broke down and cried, and I broke command, and I just reached and gave her a hug, you
Hmm.
know and the officer that was with me was excuse my French, but was an asshole.
Hmm.
And uh, I just wanted to smack him. He's like, I'm gonna get you in trouble later because I'm gonna write you up because you broke command. I'm like, it don't matter. Like I didn't care. Just like it was, So I sat there. I sat there with the mother until the sister came. So I didn't leave the mother alone because not only are we responsible for the soldier, we're responsible for the families as well.
Hmm.
And I didn't, she just received news that her son is dead, and not coming home. So I'm not going to leave somebody like that. We're not going to leave somebody like that. And so the sister came, and she, and I know it's not funny, but it's funny because the sergeant, the officer I had an issue with, he said something to her, and she just out of instinct turned around and punched him right in the nose. So I'm inside trying to not laugh, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Ma'am," I was like, "Thank you," because I've been wanting to do that for the whole time.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I kind of got her a little smiling, and I walked him through the path, and each one's different because each each it's the same, but each one receives the news differently.
Hmm.
And I did get in trouble for breaking character, but I didn't care because
Right.
I did it for a good thing. And
Hmm.
that's what I did. A lot of my trouble that I got into in the unit was because I stood up for what was right and what wasn't. And I understand we're trained to do certain things, but at the same time we're all human as well.
Mhm. Right, right. So, it must have taken a toll on you to, kind of be, like, robotic, almost like a machine, especially if you, per se, knew who the fallen was, right?
Yes, I had a few of them that I knew them personally, and those were hard. And then we had a onward joke when we were at Fort Hood. I did four of them while I was at Fort Hood,
Mhm,
and they had during the memorial services that we were conducting, they had kids,
mhm,
and they found out that I worked really well with kids. So they had me working with the kids during the process, and
mhm,
then another team member working with the parent, with the loved ones. And my first kid I worked with, he was a 4 years old. The father was a volunteer firefighter, and he joined the military. This little 4 year old sitting on the altar playing with his fire trucks and tells me, I think I asked him if he understood what was going on, and he said that he goes, he goes, yes, I know what's going on. And I said, okay, can you tell me? Because I'm kind of confused, because I wanted to see what was going on with
mhm,
him. He goes, my daddy's in heaven. And I was like, and I'm trying so hard not to cry.
mhm,
And I said, okay. I said, well, you're right. Your daddy's in heaven. And I was like, how do you feel about that? And he goes, I know my daddy did a good thing. And I said, okay. He goes, you know what? And I said, what? He goes, can I tell you a secret? Because mommy's not going to like me, but can I tell you a secret? And I said, yeah, buddy, it's be between us. He goes, I'm going to grow up and be just like my daddy, because my daddy was a good hero.
mhm,
And I was like, good job, buddy. And I sat there and tried so hard to keep my robot face, like you said.
mhm,
And when I got done, I ran right into the back into the office and just cried,
mhm,
because, what are you supposed to do? You all have kids. What do you do if a
mhm.
your son came up and told you that, like, and ever since then, they found out that I can handle kids. I swear it was an ongoing joke that when there's a kid involved, Leanna's got to take Jenkins has got to take care of it, because she knows how to handle it.
Right,
It wasn't the I would rather handle telling the adult about it than the child.
right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. You telling that story, I'm fighting back tears right now because I'm a father myself, and yeah, that's man. So, I know you were always there for the soldiers' morale. So, what did you do to keep your morale up? Like, the, was there a system in place for you, or was it just battle buddies there for you?
Um, we so a little insight about us with our morale. Chaplains and chaplain assistants, part of our MOS is we signed a confidentiality agreement
Hmm.
where even me as a chaplain assistant, I couldn't tell the chaplain what was going on when I was counseling somebody,
Hmm.
unless it was harming themselves or someone else.
Right.
That's the only time I can break it. And I had to break it twice in my career.
Hmm.
And but other than that, we what we would do is we would summarize. We'd be like, okay, chaplain, we met with private such and such. um we would give them an overall, basically what we can, without going into detail. Be like, we met with private such and such for infidelity problems, you
Hmm.
know and that's all we could say. We
Right.
didn't tell them, who was the one that did it or anything like
Right.
that, or the how was it going to go about or anything like that. And so we didn't. But then us chaplain assistants, like especially like at Ilsheim, we had a good reputation, a good structure, and a good bond with us. and um we would meet at the chapel, and we would play like games together, conduct, you know friendships and stuff together and stuff like that. And we would find ways. We played a lot of charades because
Mhm.
but we would do stuff to like, and then what we would do, that would be our way of doing our education, because you have to do certain MOS stuff, related
Right.
and stuff like that. And so we would do charades, but we would do it MOS related. So we would have to do certain things. That's how we did our training and stuff, because we had to find, because so much heaviness on us, and
Mhm.
responsibility on us. We had to find a way to have a little bit of fun too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I know you were we were just talking before we got on, and I apologize for throwing you under the bus with Thompson,
It's
telling
okay.
telling everybody that it was our chaplain assistant that led us to drink this big gold alcohol on a singles retreat, which you also helped organize, correct? Like the singles and the married couples retreats,
Correct.
to get. Um, how did you go about doing all that? Because I mean, some of the
So
places you took people to were amazing.
so basically, how we were able to conduct that is, each chapel was granted a certain amount of money. And
Hmm.
my head chaplain at our chapel at Ilsheim, when he received the money, instead of spending it on things that we didn't really need, he decided, he asked me and one of the other sergeants that was married, what would we spend the money on? And we were like, well, we would love to, do for soldiers. We would like to take the soldiers out and do something with the soldiers.
Hmm.
So he actually used the money that we were granted to put together the different places that we went to. We went to Paris, we went to Spain, we went to Italy, we went to France, we went to Amsterdam. We went One of the small cases, we went to see the camps.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
You know which ones I'm talking about, the net the
Yeah, the concentration camps.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was my hardest one. I went to that one, and I ended up going to sitting on the bus because I couldn't take it anymore, because I started crying when I realized what was going on there and seen it face to
Mhm.
face. But it was definitely a good one, because we learned a lot too. It's very educational, but
Mhm.
it wasn't as fun as all the other ones. Um
Right.
but that's what we decided. We decided as a chapel that we were going to use the money that we were granted, instead of repairing the chapel and stuff like that. We were going to use it to boost morale in our post.
Mhm. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, and the one I was on was pretty fun too. Where we went to Edelweiss, a skiing resort. That
Yeah.
was Yeah, that was real good, and I had a lot of fun.
But
And
that was actually the Edelweiss that we went to. That was just recently built for a structure, for a place for us for military.
mm, okay.
Yep.
Um,
Did you see the castle while you were there?
yeah, yeah,
The one that is based off of the castle at Disney World.
yeah, yep,
Yep.
yeah.
That was pretty, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I was when I first saw it, I was like, "That looks awfully familiar." Like, I didn't know at all when we were there, and I was like, "Were they gonna build a Disney World here or something?" And they just decided not to, because I know there's like a Disney World in Paris. I was like, "Does every country have a Disney World?"
No.
Yeah, but that was just my young dumb mind thinking, like, not thinking it was like historical, or Disney World was based off of the castle
Yep.
in Disney World. That's just a young dumb mind. you know. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and um, it probably would have been a little bit more fun, me personally, if because we were there kind of towards the spring summer, um, and I think it would have been a little bit more fun if we went there in the winter and we had the ability to ski.
Well, we did do a winter one, but we did it with the
No.
Ansbach. We did it with the Ansbach post.
Oh, okay.
And it was so funny. I'm not even gonna lie. That I think that was one of my favorite ones because half those people were from California and Florida that never see snow. And so to to watch them see snow and realize, because I got down and I was making a snow angel, they're like, "What are you doing? Aren't you freezing?" I was like, "Just get down here and try it."
Right.
And then we went on the hill to go to, because they wanted to try to learn how to ski and snowboard. And I've skied before, but I'm not a good skier. My whole family will tell you. And so I wanted to try snowboarding
Hmm.
because I'm a klutz. I'm a big klutz. And we got up to the top of this hill. There was a in the lodge at the top of the hill was like a nice little restaurant and stuff, for you to go and stuff. We were coming down, and it was so funny. All of us gave up like within the first like maybe 100 meters. We're like, how are we gonna get down? They're like, and they're screaming and stuff because they're like, I'm freezing, I'm cold. This, you didn't tell us, Jenkins, that this was like this. So all the way down, we were complaining. Finally, the ski patrols, the lodge patrols came and goes, "What's going on? You guys have to start. You have to ski. You have to ski. You have to snow." And we're like, "We can't. We don't know how. It's our first time." So some of us got brought down on the cart, on the little first aid gurney, because we couldn't do it anymore. Oh,
Uh,
then at
all
the
right.
end, when we got to the end and we got done, we returned everything. And they're all like, I need a drink. This is not fun. You're not a good chaplain assistant. You tortured us.
There you go.
I had fun though.
Yeah, surprising that Californians and Floridians don't know that snow is cold.
Yeah, it was funny because they were in these nice little. They're all about looking good. They're not at all about, when you come from snow, you're like, yeah, you don't look good when you're in a bunch of snow.
No, no,
Those $50, $100 jackets don't do you any justice.
right. Hey, Rabbit. Evening to you. You're cutting wood. All right. Cool. Um, what was one thing? What was one thing civilians might be surprised to learn about military life from your perspective?
So the one question, and I'm sure you probably got this. The first question is, especially young kids that realize that you were in the military, like it's like their first question: How many people did you kill?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so a lot of people don't realize like you can go 20 years without actually killing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does it. It just depends on what you've seen in your time.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to tell the kids, my answer used to be like, well, if I tell you that, then you're gonna have to add, you're gonna be added to my roster. And they would be so scared they wouldn't ask me the question no more.
Uh,
So but I think honestly that's the biggest thing, because people, they assume that, oh, you're in the military, so okay, now you're gonna have all these you're going to have this PTSD, you're going to have all these sleeping issues, you're going to have all this and that. But some of us learn how to cope with it and some of us don't.
mm-hmm.
We all, there's different ways and different things to do to cope with things.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us, they don't have it, or they have it and they don't realize until like 20, 30 years later.
Right. Yeah. Some of us learn to live with it, but some of us don't. And Well, if you have PTSD, you're never going to get rid of it. It's always going to be there. You're just going to learn how to live with it, basically.
See,
And go ahead.
not, not to cut you off, but the thing with PTSD, people have to realize that just because we were in the military, yeah, we might have PTSD from there, but a traumatic event also can cause PTSD, like a
Mm-hmm.
death, like
Mm-hmm.
like a car accident, like
Mm-hmm.
a drowning or anything like that
Mm-hmm.
can cause it as well. So not just because we were in the military, oh, you assume that we have PTSD, and that's what a lot of people do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not just that. There's other factors as well that can cause PTSD.
Yeah, there's other factors, and what a lot of people don't know too is that there's actually six different levels, from like normal stress level to the sixth level is like you have to be super medicated, go to therapy all the time. Like you just can't live a normal life. So just because somebody says they have PTSD doesn't automatically mean they're gonna like flip out on you and throw tables and you know start shooting up a building or anything like that. That's not,
Yeah.
you know, that's that's something I think a lot of civilians don't understand.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that would be, if you, with your question, I think that's the thing is they automatically assume the worst when they hear instead of the best. And then you have the ones that, like it's great to hear the word thank you.
mm-hmm,
I just, me personally, I don't know if for you as well, but it's nice to hear thank you out of people that, when they find out that you were in the service, they're like, thank you for your service. That means a lot to me. And I
mm-hmm,
don't know if it means a lot to anybody else, but it means a lot to me because that means that all that stress and all that torture that I went through meant something,
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. But then you got those that are sarcastic, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, thank you. What did you do special? Everybody serves in the military.
Right.
So, and those are the ones that you want to punch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny earlier when you said, people ask you how many people did you kill, Um, I got that a lot, uh, especially when I was like between R&R or something like that. So, and Jenkins, you know this because military people, we have a dark sense of humor.
Yep.
Civilians don't get it. I got so tired of getting asked that question to finally when I was like, you know what, enough is enough. The next person that asks me that, I'm going to make it to where they just kind of shut up, don't want to look at me and everything. So it was actually, I don't know how old this guy was exactly, but he wasn't like a kid. He wasn't a teenager. He might have been like in his 30s, close to 40 years old. We were sitting on an airplane, and I was coming back from Afghanistan on my second tour. Um, and he looks at me in uniform and goes, "Oh, you're in the army. How many people did you kill?" And I looked at him and I said, "Do babies count?" And I
Oh,
was not serious, but that guy was like,
he shut up, didn't he?
"Yeah." He shut up and left me alone. You know, and I wasn't serious. I haven't killed any babies, obviously, but I was
But
like,
you know
"What
why
is
that
what
was
is the?"
bad? Because back in World War I and World War II
Right?
era, they were called baby killers. So
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. So that was my dark sense of humor, and this is the first time I've actually admitted on air that I actually said that. But it's like how do you get these people to stop? You know, um. So this is
yeah, that
why.
was fine when I told the kids they were going to join my roster if I told them. So I mean, a little kid,
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm done. And then my when I got out of active duty and I left our unit. I joined the National Guard for a couple years. And my
Mhm.
chaplain, he was so cool. I loved it. He was he him and I are still friends to this day. And I got to meet his family and everything and all that. We're still good friends.
Right.
And um we had when I didn't know about this, but in the National Guard, they had a camp for just military kids.
Mhm.
And so they had asked us to come and be guest speakers and explain to the kids what chaplain and chaplain assistants do. And these
Mhm.
kids range from the age of like 6 to 13. So, that's like a wide range of like different, perspective on things.
Mm.
So I'm
Right.
sitting and I had to come up with a creative way to explain, like kind of like I did today, what you asked me what is a daily, dose and all that. So I'm sitting here and one of the things I did bring up was, that I have to carry a weapon and I have to protect both the chaplain and myself because they're not allowed to. So then,
Mhm.
of course, their question was, well, why aren't they allowed to? And so I had to explain to them that because of, the rules and the law, you couldn't tell them all of the real reason. And
Mhm.
so then my chaplain, it was so funny. They're like, well, what do you do for the chaplain and this and that and all that? And I said, well, basically, let me explain it to you guys. I said, how many of you guys have babysitters at home? And so almost half of them raised their hand. I said,
Mhm.
how many of you feel like you want to beat up your babysitter sometimes? So of course, they raise their hand and stuff. I said, well, let me explain it this way. You see this guy over here? And I pointed to my chaplain. I'm like, they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I'm his babysitter. I got to make sure he's protected and make sure he gets what he needs. And he just looked at me and gave me a weird look and like, I'm going to get you later, Jenkins. And I was like, yep, got you later, sir. And all of a sudden, everybody just bursted out into laughter.
Right.
And so when we got done, the kids got to ask questions and stuff, and they were like, so we were, my chaplain and I were on our way back to our cars in Lansing, and we end up raining so bad we had to pull over, right? So we
Mhm.
we just pulled over into the nearest driveway, and he loved to drink sweet tea and eat pretzels, so we always joked around. And we're sitting there, and he's like, so you had to tell kids you're my babysitter, huh? And so we called his wife and told his wife, and she started laughing. We're all laughing. And all of a sudden, it cleared up. And this path that we went into was a freaking, we were like, okay, I was like, sir, you're never allowed to drive no more. We ended up parking into a cemetery. I said, see, this is why your babysitter is supposed to drive and not you.
Mm.
I said, sir, if you want to kill me, just let me know and I'll go dig my own grave. And so
Mhm.
we all have, him and I joke about it all the time now. We still
Right.
joke about it. And this happened over 20 years ago. But yeah, we had some good times and some bad times. I had a chaplain that threw me under the bus so he can get promoted.
Mhm.
And that really hurt. But hey,
Mhm. Right.
it's okay.
Yeah. And Corn Plum 80, right now we're doing an interview of a veteran and telling her story. Um you're more than welcome to come back on any other live stream and ask me that question. But for today, I'm not answering that question. But come on back, and I'll tell you if I hate this microphone, or not microphone, mouse. It's got little buttons on the side. I hit the buttons on the side again. It goes back on the. So that's what happened. So, anyways, yeah. If you want to come back, come back. Ask me those questions. So Sorry for that,
You're good.
because it happens because people see military and live streams. People come on and they want to know who do you support. I mean, basically, right now, this channel supports veterans and it supports America. So that's my view. America first and veterans, which I'm going to be working on a project here in a little uh, next couple of weeks because I found out about a veteran that needs home hospice and the VA won't cover it and they don't um, something about Medicaid or something like that. So I'm gonna work on a project to raise money for this veteran to hopefully get them at least a month of home hospice because they really need it. And
What state?
Arkansas.
So, just so you know, that every VA, there's two different programs. There's a
Mm-hmm.
caregiver program, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a caregiver program, which is in home, where the VA, if you qualify, you have to go through the whole process to see if you
Mm-hmm.
qualify and what level that you need care for. And then there's also, each state has another program that's state based, where depending on the level of care that you need, and if it's cheap, the military, if
Right.
it's cheaper for them, they will put you in, they will pay for hospice to come to you.
Okay.
I'll
Oh,
message you the
yeah.
information later.
Yeah. From my understanding, though, is that they do. The VA will take care of, but the problem is this veteran is sick and um, they're only available in it's only available in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Little Rock, Arkansas. So um, the the sick veteran is being basically forced to kind of move. Like that's their choice is move to Fayetteville, Arkansas, or Little Rock, or not have home hospice. And I was like, that is not fair. That somebody
Yeah,
that is sick shouldn't have to move. Like you're no, like VA, come on.
there's more to it, and you and I can talk later about it, and I'll
Okay.
tell you. I've actually, that's another thing that I still do.
Mhm.
I still involved in a lot of different things. So we can talk
Okay.
more about it. I'll get more from the story, and I'll tell you more from what I know.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And if all else fails, I'm still gonna do
Yeah.
the donation drive or something like that. Because
Well, see, here in Michigan, because a lot of my friends, a lot of veterans I got together with and stuff, we started a non-denominational program,
mhm.
and one of my friends did, and he asked me to join because of the resources that I've had to learn. And
Mhm.
because of a lot of things that I've been going through personally, I even got connections all the way to Washington D.C. because I was very fed up with what was going on. So
Yeah.
through my time, I learned a lot of different things and got a lot of different connections.
Mhm.
And also, the other thing you can tell the veteran, wounded warriors helps a
Mhm.
lot. They will
Okay.
help with that issue as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's um to me it's sad that we have to have organizations like grassroots organizations like Wounded Warrior Project and all this that fill the need
Mhm.
when we served we served the government, and I don't know if you ever seen that TV show The Unit, but there's one scene in there where one of the guys that's in the unit is getting out and he's like being mistreated, per
Yeah.
se. And he says, when you're in, you're the best, but when you're out, you're a pest. And
Well,
that
it
stuck
goes
with
back to
me.
that old saying, Hodge, that, you know, what's U.S. Army stand for? We're Uncle
Uh,
Sam's. Use my French, but we're Uncle Sam's bitches while we're in, and then
Yeah,
when we're out, we're no, we're the trash.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Uncle Sam ain't released me yet.
Yep,
Yes, my backwards. It's yes, my retarded ass signed up.
yep. See,
Yep. um. So, so sorry about. Man, it's just been crazy today. Like things aren't working, hitting back buttons when I'm not supposed to. But that's okay. It's all part of the podcasting, I guess you could say. Um, what's something the military taught you that you couldn't have learned anywhere else?
hmm. I don't know if it's so much as I couldn't learn anywhere else, as much as I learned it the most in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and that is no matter male or female, skin color, where you come from, what state you come from, we all carry the same blood.
Mm-hmm.
We all we all at one point have the same goal in life, which is make it through the journey, until we're not here no more.
Mm-hmm.
Um I learned to have patience with things a lot more. I learned a lot about patience when I was in the military than I
Mm-hmm.
did when I was a civilian. I carry it now because I learned a lot of it, because you have to have patience, because basically we're all thrown together in this one goal, you know, and all different ways of life and different things of steps of life, and we're all thrown into this big old pile, and we have to sort this pile out and make these goals happen. And not all of us were trained or taught or brought up the same way, so we have to
Right.
learn how to get through diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the one thing I learned from the military that I would not. Yes, you will learn some of it, in civilian world, but the military taught us how to do it, and we were forced to do it in a
Right.
structure setting that allowed us to be able to, like in the civilian world. Yeah, you have to learn with it depending on your job or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but in the military you're kind of tossed together and you're forced to do it, per se. Where in the
Right.
military, where in the civilian world, if you don't get along with somebody, you can always quit and find another job, per
Mm-hmm.
se, or you can avoid the people and go to another neighborhood, or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Where in the military you can't do that. You have to face it.
Right. Right. Exactly. You basically have to put up with it. You're like,
Yep.
um, and I remember a story. I don't know if you remember this or not, but um, Owens had a roommate. When we were in Illesheim, just to paint the picture for everybody. Like when we say a roommate, we don't mean like sharing a same room. In Illesheim, the Stork barracks, we actually had
A
separate
bathroom in
rooms.
between us.
Yeah, there was a bathroom between us. So, but we were called roommates. And Owen had Kirby as a roommate. And you're talking about Owen Jenkins. You remember Owen was Southern boy, you know, rebel flag. You know,
Yep.
Kirby was the exact opposite black man. I can't remember where he's from. And there was a situation that I remember where Kirby kind of took it up the chain because Owen had a rebel flag, and he didn't like it, you know. So he kind of told on him, and that upset Owen. And but basically, chain of command said, "Well, all you do is share a bathroom with him. If you don't like, at first they tried to have him take it down, and he fought it, and some
Yeah.
others in chain of command fought against it too. You know, and basically the ultimate ruling was if you don't like it, you don't have to look at it. I mean, all you do is share a bathroom together. You know,
Yep.
if he has his door open, don't look inside. You know,
Oh,
so yeah, that right there is like we could be from different walks of life. We could not stand our roommate whatsoever. You know, we don't have to agree ideology with the ideology of somebody else or political stance or whatever. But you know, ultimately, it was like we would chant one team, one fight. Didn't matter,
Yep.
you know, and yeah, so that's probably I think a skill. Yeah, you know, to like you said, patience and either the ability to ignore or move on. You know.
Yeah. And we had quite a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a few of those that I as a chaplain assistant, it's hard to say that you didn't like somebody, but there was a few of them that I didn't like and I didn't get along with, but because I
Mm.
was the chaplain assistant, I had to learn to adapt.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's that doesn't mean like when you saw that person you didn't like as when they were far away and they were coming towards you, it doesn't mean you weren't like, oh Lord, here they come.
I'm like,
What do
which
they
way do
want?
I can I go to avoid them? Because it's what I'm gonna do. I'm avoid them. I'm avoid
Yeah.
them. Well,
Yeah.
and it was funny because it was funny, but it wasn't funny. The reason why the person didn't like me is because I found out through counseling that the husband was planning to leave her.
Mm.
And I couldn't tell her. And she's like, "Well, you're my roommate. You're supposed to look out for me." I'm like, "Well, no,
Yeah.
that's not it. You know, I'm a
Yeah.
chaplain assistant first, then the roommate second. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not. You know, I'm like, I can't tell you. You know, like it's
Mm-hmm.
you know it's I look at it like it's his job to tell you that he don't want to deal with you no more. You know, but
Right.
then they stayed together for a little bit longer because they were making money staying together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so they were basically milking Uncle Sam for a little bit longer until until command found out about it and they both got in trouble for it. But
Mm-hmm.
they both got a divorce. They got a divorce. But
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
little things like that that I found out about that you know I I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't say anything.
Right. Right.
You know, if I could write a book about our journey in Illesheim and the stuff that I know and the stuff that I got to, man, I would be like, "Are you serious? That really happened?" Yeah, it really happened.
Well, you could always write a book. You just need to change the place, the time, the names, you know, and
Yeah,
only a few people would know that you're talking about them.
yeah, that's true. But then some of the cases, it's like even if I change the names, like if I wrote a book and I wrote a certain story, I know exactly like you and a couple other people would know because they'd be like, "Dang that!" First of all, you guys be like, "That really happened."
Yeah.
Jenkins, and then secondly, you'd be like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can believe it now because of that
Yeah.
person." So,
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. Little clues that we would pick up on.
oh yeah.
um so we know how you're serving sh- kind of shaped your view on, you know, I guess you could say discipline, you know, because of patience. But how did serving shape your view on discipline, teamwork, and or responsibility?
Um, that's a touchy subject.
Mm,
The reason is the person that was supposed to look out for me and help me was my enemy.
Mm.
And they looked out for themselves instead of looking out for me, but they
Mhm.
expect me to look out for them.
Mhm.
And so I had a rough time with that one. But when I did finally get it to where someone had treated me the way that I'm supposed to be treated and did for me what they were supposed to do, it was a better situation.
Mhm. Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you your first shape on teamwork and probably leadership was probably negative
correct.
in the beginning. Okay. Yep, and it's unfortunate that sometimes we have that. Like I had I didn't have it that bad, but you know, and not in 2-6, but in a later unit because uh because I was considered the only pogue, you know. Well, I
Mhm.
wasn't the only pogue, but you know, when you get with like infantry or scouts or any, combat related unit, not saying that like 2-6 wasn't combat related, but like the only ones that
We were
really saw
Apache.
go, yeah, only ones that saw real combat were the Apache pilots,
Yeah.
um, or anybody that was dumb enough to volunteer for some other extra stuff. Uh, not not me,
Mentioning names.
not me. And other uh motor pool people like Amaya and several others.
Yeah.
We were dumb enough to be like, "Hey, you know what? I want to go do some cool stuff." I probably shouldn't have done that. um, but yeah, I had a platoon sergeant, you know, that was supposed to be my leader, and he was kind of an enemy because um, even though as a E5 myself, he made my life a living hell with that unit, you know,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I feel you on that. It probably wasn't as bad with my situation as yours because, of course, I'm not going to compare, and be like, "Oh,
Well,
this isn't a
no.
competition." But I know who you're talking about, and yeah, yeah,
Like
we
I
won't.
said, when I write the book, you know.
Yeah, I already know who you're talking about, but yeah, I mean, uh, I had, God definitely gave me discernment during that time because I had a feeling he was two faced, you know, like when he was out and
Yeah.
about, greeting soldiers and stuff. He was very nice to us, but you know, just something about him. I was like, there's something off about him. I don't think he's really like this, you know.
Yeah. We'll talk more off record.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about this individual, but you know, um, he is, I guess you could say, in a better place. He's
Yeah.
resting in peace now.
And everybody else had great things to say.
Yeah.
And like I said, as a person, it wasn't bad. It's just other things.
Hmm.
I got to see the other side of things. We always had that military perspective person that we
Hmm.
had to do, and then we had our personal lives, and
Right.
the two never coincide. Just like we said earlier, as a chaplain assistant, you would think a person that supplies religion needs and stuff like that shouldn't go out and have a drink or two once in a while. But you know what? I was young. I
Hmm.
was a single soldier.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have fun as well, but I'm not gonna
Right.
go out, and be like half you males that, well, not you, but some of certain males
Oh,
in our
it probably
unit.
was me too.
So no, but certain males in our unit were passing females from the bars around each weekend,
Oh.
and so it's like we called them the barracks rats,
Oh,
because
yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And as
yeah.
a
No, I
chaplain
was I was
assistant,
not that one. No, no.
exactly, that's why I said you weren't that one.
No.
And, but it's just like we had stuff like that going around and
Mhm.
going on, and then everybody would get mad that they did something stupid and come knocking on my door at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because they're drunk and be like, "I'm so sorry, I did something wrong," and I'm like, "Just let me sleep, just let me
Yeah.
sleep."
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So,
And that's the other thing people didn't realize. Just because, you know, most of you guys like motor pool, you were like what, 9 to 5 or whatever, or 7 to 5 or 8 to 5,
mhm.
whatever. But as chaplain assistants and chaplains, we were on 24/7. We didn't
Right.
get time off, even though we technically weren't in the office. We were still in the office because we had to carry what was called our support phones around, and we had
Mhm.
to have those on all the time, and we had to answer them whenever they rang.
Right.
So, a lot of times they would ring when everybody was drunk and stuff, and realization hit them, for some whatever reason. And we also had to take care of the spouses, like I had said
Hey, Sherry.
earlier. So
Yeah.
we
Sorry, I
never
was
got a
saying hi
break.
to Sherry
So
in the comments. Sherry, this is Jenkins. She was the chaplain assistant that served with me. And we're interviewing her, so say hi.
hi.
I was telling Sherry to say hi, like not you, but you could say hi anyways. Um, so what leadership qualities did you admire most in others?
Hmm. I'd have to say that in some leadership, honesty
Mm-hmm.
and compassion
Mm-hmm.
we're seen in a lot some of the leaders that you would not expect it to be in.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know there were some captains that weren't really in, leadership positions, but I grew to admire them. Because they were there. They were helpful, you know. And so yeah. But that's pretty cool. Is there anybody in particular that, you admired the most while you were in?
In 2-6,
Any unit that you were chaplain assistant for?
I would have to say when I was in National Guard, my
Mhm.
chaplain Hefner, which I'm still friends with to this day, and it's been 20 some years.
Mhm.
Um, he, he I taught him a lot of things because I will let me tell you this from to help explain it. So active duty, reserve, and National Guard are not the same. Yes, we're
Yeah.
serving, but they're not the same. So people understand that. So when you're active duty, you're fully involved 24/7. Whereas in National Guard and Reserve, you are basically 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. And so that's the only time you see the people majority of the time that you're with.
Mhm.
So, and active duty have different rules than National Guard and reservists. And so when I came from active duty to National Guard, my Chaplain Hevner, was doing things that were illegal in active duty. And I was like, "Sir, you need to get your name off that like real fast because you can't have your name on there as a chaplain." And so I basically was teaching him how to be, because all his career was National Guard.
Mhm.
So he didn't understand. And so I come in the unit that I was in was heavy, which was all brass heavy. They were
Mm-hmm.
all. My commander in the National Guard was a 4-star general. So if you have a
Mm-hmm.
4-star general in active duty, that's a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in National Guard, it wasn't a huge as big of a deal as to have a 4-star general, and he was the funniest guy in the world. And my sis, and my commander was a full bird colonel, and
Mm-hmm.
as a enlisted, to have somebody at those high ranks, talk to you or give you their coin or something like that, it was a huge deal. But when
Right.
I went in when I went into National Guard, it wasn't as big a deal as an active duty. It's like, when you receive a coin in active duty, that was like the golden, that was the golden ticket,
Right.
that was like Willy Wonka giving you the golden ticket to join the
Right.
factory.
Yeah. I got a golden ticket.
Yeah. So, but yeah, my chaplain in the national, and when I was in the National Guard, my National
Mm-hmm.
Guard unit helped me
Mm-hmm.
realize a lot of things. And he's actually, when I was really sick, him and his wife came and visit me when I was in the hospital and stuff like that, and they came. I had lost a really close friend
Mm-hmm.
on the civilian side, and they willingly came and on their own personal time came and went to the funeral with me and stuff like that, and how many people can you say in the unit, would do something like that with you, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. So that would be the one that you admired the most.
yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool. Um, Chat has a question. Sherry from the chat has, would you both serve again?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I would. No question. Like, I, especially when I am doing my deliveries to, and I go past like, you know, Fort Sill and stuff like that when I was doing over the road or going back through like Fort Bragg, North Carolina, going close to it, like not in it, but I would see the motor pool and everything. I would see the barracks while I'm driving by, and I'm like, oh, you know, like I hated it, but I miss it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
You
it's one
know,
of those catch-22 things.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So,
The flip side of that question is yes, I'd go and do it again, but if I knew now what I should have known then and got a chance to redo it, there's a couple things I would redo
hmm,
if I could. But at that same time, it goes back to earlier when I said, we're all like come from different parts of life and thrown in, into the motor
right,
pool. Yeah,
right,
into the
yeah,
motor pool and have to cipher. So,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we talked a little bit about morale. So I'm gonna skip that one because we talked about that a little bit. Um, and we did talk a little bit about the toughest part of service, but in your eyes, what was the toughest part of service? Was it physical, mental, or emotional,
for
or was it
me,
all?
for me, it was a little bit of all, but
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part was the emotional part where I
Mm-hmm.
had where I was forced to turn off certain emotions that were naturally given to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. I could see it being very emotional. Because most people only see that side of in Hollywood, and I don't
Yeah.
think they portray it right. I mean, I think the only movie that portrayed it really well, not that, but what was that movie where they that was it? Thank you for your service or something like that, where they had it was Woody Harrelson, and they were going around, and that's what their job was to notify the family of the deceased. I think they got it kind of okay, you know. Um,
You know, What other movie was Stop Loss? Did you see that?
Oh,
Did you get a chance to see
I
that one?
haven't
That was
seen
an
that
older
one.
one.
Yeah, I need to watch that one.
Watch that one because it gives a little bit. It gives it because like a lot of people, like for example, didn't realize like when we're over when you're deployed out, you know, okay, the military had the longest deployment. We had 18
Mm,
up to 18 months.
mhm.
But if you're over there and your unit that's supposed to come replace you isn't ready to replace you right away, even though you already been there for 18 months, you can get told that you have to stay there longer until that unit's ready to come. And people
Mhm.
don't realize that. Just like when you're deployed and you're ready to end your deployment and you're ready to get out of the military and another war breaks out, they can stop you from leaving and tell you that you have to stay there, and
Mhm.
serve longer during this deployment. And people don't realize that. And so this movie Stop Loss kind of showed that part
Mhm.
of it. Like we, even though we're in and we done our 20 years and or we did our 8 years or whatever, we Uncle Sam can keep us longer once we're in there
Right.
if he wants to. And
Right.
people don't realize that you
Yeah.
know and the other thing is like you were talking about morale. The biggest morale for us soldiers was our family and friends that were supporting us,
Mhm.
sending us, the letters or care packages or the phone calls or things
Mhm.
like that. Those things like that helped us more than you would never know, and you can probably
Right.
justify to that as well.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of that, like, ladies, if you're a dependent and your husband goes overseas, be faithful to him.
Yeah.
Don't be while he's on deployment. Don't be a coward and leave him and decide to leave him. I understand, like, uh, women tend to be, and I'm not saying it's just women. Like,
And men.
men could do it too. But whoever's deployed and the person back home, like, keep it in your pants, please. And do it for them because you do not understand what they are going through, and that for and I because I know this personally, not myself, but I watched one of my best closest friends, um in my second unit. Like, he totally lost it. Don't send the person that you're supposed to love a letter while they're on deployment telling them that you've been sleeping around, that you were only with them for their money, blah blah blah. That's a coward. You're a piece of crap. Don't do that. Wait until
Yeah.
they get back. At least have courage and face them. Don't do that. That's a coward's way out. If you don't really love them, and like Jenkins, you were saying, when you said that about people back home, family back home, being
Yeah.
supportive. That's what soldiers need. Airmen, Navy, Marines, soldiers. We need that. We need that support. And don't bring the don't bring the problems from home to the combat zone, because that's the worst nightmare. That's a tornado meeting a volcano meeting a hurricane.
Or the other flip side of that one is if you step out, at least use protection so you don't get pregnant and try to say it's the soldiers when he comes home.
Hmm.
Had that one. I've had a
Yeah, and
female. She stepped out on her husband when he was deployed and came to
yeah,
me
that's
and
true,
said that
Sherry.
she was pregnant and asked me to go with her for abortion because she can't her husband can't find out about it. And
Hmm.
then when he came home, she ended up told him, and he came to me and he goes, "Why didn't you say something to me?" I said, "First of all, that's between you and your wife.
Hmm.
Second of all, I couldn't say anything because I was bound." And he's like, "Well, I thought we were friends." I was like, "No, we are friends, but you have to understand." I said, "Would you rather hear it from me or would you rather hear it from your wife?" And
Hmm.
then that's
Right.
when that's when I said, now calm down, because and I had shared, and I was able to talk to him about it, and
Mm-hmm.
and they end up getting a divorce and stuff. But um I told him, I said, you got to understand. I'm like, and I put it in perspective to him, like, I'm doing my MOS, I'm doing my job just like you do your job, and he found out that was not the first time she cheated on him, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Kind of same scenario what you're saying earlier, she found the money was good, and found out
Mm-hmm.
the benefits that you had, and the benefits outweighed, what her life was before him. So
Right. Yeah. That's true. Oh my gosh. So basically, we are getting firsthand knowledge that Chaplin's assistants are they're friends to everyone, but that because of that friendship, and that agreement that they're not allowed to disclose anything, they become everybody's enemy because why didn't you tell me? You know.
yeah,
So if you don't want to be frenemies with anybody, don't become a chaplain's assistant.
exactly. We're like the ones that you love and the ones that you hate at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had no problem with you. I was just stupid, so
You were young and dumb.
yeah, I was definitely young and dumb. And I think there was a lot of other people in 2-6 that were that way too. Young and some of them were
I
old and dumb
old and
too.
yeah, I was gonna say
That's
old
worse
and
when
dumb
you're
too.
old and dumb.
I think we had a lot of dummies in 2-6.
Yeah, we did. I think 2-6 was basically an experiment.
Yeah, like earlier when I was saying we all got thrown in together,
Yeah.
I think that was what 2-6 was, and I think that's where I learned a lot. Why I learned a lot of
Mhm.
patience and a lot about myself personally when I was in that unit, and
Right.
what people, because people like you just said, people seem like, a chaplain assistant does this, the chaplain assistant's got the easiest MOS and blah.
Mhm.
But the thing is on the outside we look like we got the easiest, because you don't know everything
Right.
that we do. And in this podcast, you're learning a little bit more about the inside of things that we do. And if you can handle it, then I would, like I said to one of the chat, one of uh, Sergeant Banks,
Mhm.
thought that, yeah, he thought everything was easy. And finally I was like, you know what, here, take care of it,
Ugh,
And
yeah.
Sergeant Singletary, he was another one that wanted to push my buttons, and I was like,
Right.
here, do it. Here, this is what you gotta do. You gotta get your soldier home. You gotta get the paperwork done. And here you
Mhm.
go. And then an hour later, they come. Both of them are like, here, I can't do this. It's like, I thought my MOS is easy. My job's easy.
Yeah. Oh man, Sergeant Banks, man, I could do without hearing that woman's voice.
Yeah, but the sad thing is, implanted in our head.
Jenkins, get over here, Jenkins!
Yeah.
Jenkins, get over here! That is exactly her voice, guys. That's what it sounded like. Like, oh my god.
And then hearing that at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's like, and then if you have a hangover, it's worse because you're like, I just got in from drinking an hour ago, and I have to hear you.
No. Oh,
Oh man,
Moonchild takes that's hilarious. I kid you not. Jenkins can verify Moonchild. That is her voice.
that is,
That is her voice.
unfortunately, that is.
I got like I do voices, okay? I do voices and I heard her voice so much that I would pull pranks on Owen. I'm like, Owen! I need you, Owen! And he would think it was Sergeant Banks calling him.
Remember when you had to wake up Owen that one time because he was almost late, and you did Sergeant Banks' voice, and he jumped up so fast. I was laughing so hard when you guys told us. I was like, oh my gosh, I can so see it too. That'd be like a nightmare. I'd be jumping up from a nightmare too.
Oh man.
Oh, remember what was his uh the captain, not Captain Sung, but Captain Perry.
Captain Perry, yeah, he's on my friends list.
When we were out in the field and he's funny. But
No,
when we
yeah.
were out in the field and then the Dallas cheerleaders came to visit,
Yeah.
he was single at the time and he's like, "Oh, I'll show them around. I'll show them around."
Yeah. He kept it. Oh my gosh.
All of us in
Oh.
S1 had so much fun with Captain Perry making fun of him and Captain Song when we were out in
Mhm.
the field. And you know how we always had the challenge and password to get in and
Yeah.
out. Captain Song would always forget. So finally one day I was sitting there and I was doing my job. If he ever hears me say this, he's gonna beat me up, but it's okay. So we're sitting there and I said, "All right, sir." I said, he said, "Jenkins, you know who I am." I was like, "Sir, I'm supposed to pretend I don't." He goes, "Well, pretend that you do, because I'm not gonna sit here and remember these words because I have other things to remember." I said, "Okay, fine." I said, "Sir, here, carry this spoon around with you," because we were trying to make fun of him too. So I gave him one of the plastic spoons from the MREs. He put it in his pocket. So then later on, days went by, about an hour went by. He had to go back out to do something for a meeting. And he came back in and I said, "What's the challenging password?" He goes, "You know, Jenkins, I don't know it." I said, "Well, where's the device that I gave you?" He goes, "I used it to eat my lunch." I said, Captain Song, I said, "You gotta do something." I said, "You gotta go out. You can't." I said, "You gotta have somebody." He goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." Then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, I look behind me. He's crawling underneath a captain, okay? Crawling underneath the tent to come in. I
Oh,
was like, me and Sergeant Colbert were sitting there was laughing our butts off. I was like, oh my God. He's like, "You wouldn't let me in." And I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, sir.
Yeah. It's my job. You need to
It
learn the
was
password, the challenge and password, man.
I almost killed in per se Lieutenant Swanson
Yeah.
because he didn't know his challenging password and he creeped
Uh,
up behind me and I was and of course you guys know when we're in training the bullets aren't real but they're
yeah.
they're real but they're not real. And so if you got shot with it, you wouldn't anything. It was just like paintball guns basically.
Mhm.
And him and he came up behind me and I said, "Sir," and I said, "What's the challenging password?" And he went and I said, "Halt, who goes there?" And he wouldn't answer. I said, "If you move anymore, I'm shooting you." And he goes, "If you shoot me, you're going to be something about Article 15." I said, "It don't matter." I said, I said, "You're not in position to tell me yes or no. You're in position to answer me." And then when I found out it was him, I was like, he's like, and he found out it was me. He's like, "My own Chaplin assistant was gonna kill me." I was like, "Yes, sir, because you're an enemy."
You're an enemy until verified, sir. Yeah. Um, remember when we were you were there, I think you were there for it. Remember in Czech Republic when we were doing the FTX and we were up for and
Oh yeah.
they had brought some orphans out, to kind of come and hang out with us and do some stuff. Lieutenant Colonel Swanson was there and others were there. Well, this guy before they showed up got this great idea after dinner, or it was lunchtime, I think, uh, to take the tray from the like defect that they had, makeshift defect that they had, and go outside with it and slide down, you know, because it was snowy, and it just started this whole thing. Like everybody was like, "That's a great idea," and they're like, going down. We're climbing up, going down, climbing up. Then it starts a snowball fight, especially when the orphans showed up, right? A big bus of orphans showed up, and they had a great time throwing snowballs with us, blah, blah, blah. And I literally thought because Command Sergeant Major and Lieutenant Colonel Swanson showed up like after the orphans. I mean, we're in mid snowball fight with these kids. We're throwing it at everybody. Like nobody's safe, right? And they show up, and I throw a snowball, and it hits Lieutenant Colonel Swanson right in the side of the head, and everybody just kind of stopped and stared, and we're like, "Oh, shoot!"
He picked up one
You
and
know,
threw it back, didn't he?
he did, he did, and
He's
then
one
it
of the
just went.
ones.
It was just snowball again, and
Him and Sergeant Major.
yeah, Sergeant Major too, and like it was so funny too with Sergeant Major because we all saw him as kind of a hard ass, right? But
Yeah.
he was throwing snowballs, having a good time, and he's saying stuff that is very hypocritical. Like you can't throw a snowball at one of the soldiers, hit the soldier, they throw it back and say, "You hit me with that snowball, you're getting this, you're getting this,
Yeah.
I'm gonna smoke you." Yeah,
Talk about Sergeant Major. When I injured my back, I was in the S1 shop and we had the cages, the cages then.
yeah, oh yeah,
And he comes out and he's cleaning out his office and stuff. And is before we were just getting ready to deploy over to Germany, Illesheim. And he comes and he goes, "Here, Jenkins, I found something for you." And he tosses me something, and I grab it, and I was like, "Sorry, Mitch, what am I supposed to do with this?" He goes, "Isn't that what women wear? It was a freaking cap for your head, shower cap."
oh yeah,
And I'm like, "I don't use these." He's like, "Okay." But then like an hour later went by, and um, we're sitting there, and he comes out and he goes, "Jenkins, I found something else for you." And he does like a frisbee to it. It's a freaking donut. He's like, "Now it'll help you with your back." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Sir, are you serious?" But he was the goofiest. He was the goofiest one. He was
hmm
him. He was so goofy when you seen him, but he knew how to be funny and he knew how to be serious. And he's
right,
one of the ones I was talking about earlier about you would never think that they were who they were, but when
right,
they got to show their true colors, oh man,
yeah,
he was funny as crap.
oh yeah, yeah. He could have gotten me real bad one time because I saw Owen, and Owen was walking that it was you remember how it looked. It was in Illesheim where that we had all the S1s and everything.
Yeah,
It looked like a train station, but it wasn't a train station. He was walking up on the
yeah.
platform, and I was driving that piece of crap car that me and Owen bought that had like 5 different colors, didn't window didn't work, you know, I'm driving that to work, um, and Owen's up there walking, and where I'm driving by, and I see him, and Sergeant Major wasn't there, like, he was coming out of the door to walk, and he looks over, and because I see Owen, I give him the middle finger, playful
Right.
middle finger, and just as I give him the middle finger, and before I could put it down, Sergeant Major steps out and looks in that direction and sees me, and I'm like, "Oh, shit," and he goes, "Hey, park your car and come over here," and I was like, "Oh, no. Oh, no." So I get up there, and he's like, "Is there a reason why you're giving me the middle finger?" And I said, "Sorry, Major, I wasn't giving it to you, I was actually doing it to Owen." And he's like, "Does that look professional? Does this and he's like giving me I'm like he's at a little bit elevated voice, and I'm thinking he is serious,
Yeah.
Like I think he knew that it wasn't for him, you know?
He just wanted to
Like,
use it to
it
see you.
yeah, yeah, and it was just an opportunity, and and he's like, "Well, who if it wasn't me, who were you giving the middle finger to?" And I said, "Uh, it was Owen was walking this way, and Sergeant Major, and I saw him, and I just gave him the middle finger, and he's like, "Why would you do that?" I was like, "'Cause he's my friend." He's like, "That's the weirdest way to act to friends." And I said, "So that," like, he knew, but he was acting like he didn't know, like, like, friends flip it o off each other, friends say "F you," kinda thing. Like, he knew, but he was playing dumb, and then finally, you know, finally, after, like, 10 minutes of it talking, I thought he was gonna tell Sergeant Hurd and get Sergeant Banks involved, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way he was, like,
That's the
talking.
coolest thing about him. And First Sergeant Marlowe was the same way,
Yeah, yeah.
Like First Sergeant Marlowe and I, man, he's like, Jenkins, you're supposed to be my chaplain assistant. You're supposed to be my helper, not the problem. I said, well, Sergeant, I said, First Sergeant, I said, it's not my problem. I said, it's their problem. They're not listening to me. He goes, so you think because you how do you say it? Said something about how I supply the religion, so I'm God or something. And I
You're
said,
God.
no, First Sergeant. I said, I'm just stating the facts. And he goes, so what are the facts, Jenkins? I said, fact one, you're my first sergeant. Fact two, I have to listen to you because of chain of command. Fact three, God's gonna give me the mercy. And he goes and he starts laughing. He couldn't hold it in any longer.
Oh, man.
Man, we had
Um,
some crazy ones and
oh,
some
yeah.
funny ones.
Yeah, we did. So for others who served, how can we be more supportive and, understanding towards each other?
The funny thing you asked that is Veterans Day.
Mhm,
If you don't know, I don't know how it is in all the states, but here in Michigan, Veterans Day, we have a certain area that of restaurants that give out free food and stuff,
mhm,
And there's a group of us every year. We meet up at one particular place and we just go down one side and then up the other side, up one side, down the other.
mhm.
And along the way, we meet different people. Well, this past year, I met a young soldier, and you can tell he was freshly out because he was standing, and everything, and he had his thumbs tucked and everything, And
Yeah.
I was like, when did you get out? And he goes, what do you mean, ma'am? I said, oh man, this is gonna be fun. And I was like, first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. Second of all, I said, can you answer my first question? When did you get out? Just last week. I was like, okay. And he goes, is there any advice? I said, I'm gonna tell you one thing. You see all these other people that are here around you? And he said, yes, ma'am. I said, if you ever get a chance, ask them about their time because that's
Mhm,
how you're going to learn.
mhm,
Because it's our job as veterans to pass down our things to those that are behind us.
mm,
Because if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be there, and if it wasn't for you, you wouldn't be able to be there for the next generation and the
mhm,
generation after that. So my word of advice is listen to veterans, and like that's why I'm like happy to be part of, this that you're doing, the veterans voice and stuff like that, different people, different things,
mhm,
because not only does it help us as veterans, but it also helps other people understand different things and different points of views that we're all, even though we all experienced the same, like you and I were in 2-6 together and
mhm.
we were there for the same length of time or whatever, but we had different experiences during that time, some
Right,
similar and some different,
right.
and that's how it is in life, even though we both went through the military, you as a male, me as a female, like I dealt with things that you didn't deal with as a male because everybody assumes the military is supposed to be for males and not females.
Mhm,
And then some of us, we were us females were actually stronger than some of the males, and
mhm.
some of the males were obviously stronger than us females, but
Right.
we all experienced things differently.
Mhm. Right.
And
Exactly.
that's the same thing in life. I would pass on what I learned to the next generation, and then the generation after that passes what they learn to the next. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow.
Hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. And we all, like you said earlier, come from different walks of life. Not everybody, um, has the same political views. No, not everybody has the same,
Upbringing.
upbringing. Like, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do veteran voices. Because and like I told one of the wives that I'm going to be interviewing, because I thought about bringing wives in to, wives, girlfriends, stuff like that. Like, what is it like to live with a veteran? Like, not all veterans have PTSD, but
Yeah.
get different perspectives out there, because these stories will help, heal us, will help the future generation understand, like, there's little tidbits that us veterans can share with those that are getting ready to get in, like my buddy Jaron Pryor, who's serving now. I told him, dude, what you need to do is you need to have an inspection uniform and
Hmm.
uh you
A
know
daily one.
a daily uniform. Like, you need to, when you get your TA50, go out to the surplus stores and get TA50, and you put the TA50 that you got issued in a box, never touch it. The
Yep.
other one that you get from a surplus store, you take that to the field, because if you lose it, oh well,
Yeah, but
go
you
back
remember
to the
how many
surplus.
times, especially you and Owen, try to steal everybody else's just to get us in trouble?
I did. It wasn't because I was trying to get you guys in trouble. It's because
Yes, it was.
I lost my canteen, so I stole somebody else's canteen. You
You're trying
know,
to get us in trouble.
well, you're not wrong, but you're not right. That wasn't the whole goal. Was to get everybody in trouble. It was to keep me out of trouble, and because I lost something,
So
and we
that's
were
another
having a
thing to
TA
pass
50
on.
inspection.
Don't do what Owen and Hodges did, people. If you're
No.
listening, don't do what they did and steal other people's, because then, you know. But you guys, the thing is you guys were friends with supply, so you guys could get it yourselves without getting everybody
I know.
in trouble.
I know. I know. Owen was supply, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's what I said.
yeah,
He was supply.
yeah. So he could have gotten it for us easy. I was NBC, so, but I was friends with supply, because supply and NBC go together hand in hand. Um, but
Cologne, man, he was
yeah,
funny.
yeah, Cologne and his anime and all that. Like,
Yeah,
he was so obsessed with Japanese culture. It wasn't funny. It
he
wasn't
was
funny. He was,
funny as can be, though.
yeah, yeah,
He's one
he
that I hung out
was.
with a lot too.
He was my roommate. He was my roommate when we were at Fort Hood, and like, he acted like, as his roommate, I owed him to let him borrow my car. So one day I was just like tired. I don't know. Um, I think I think we were doing inspections or something like that, and Owen and Cologne and Sergeant Hurd were doing something else. So they put me to pull out all the inventory in the ISU 90s, lay it out, blah blah blah. So I was tired when I got back, and he comes in and he's like, "Can I borrow your car?" And I told him, "No, dude, no." You know, or first he asked me if I could drive him somewhere, and I said, "No, I'm just tired." And he's like, "Can I borrow your car?" And I was like, "I would let you, but um, you're not on my insurance and all that, and I just don't feel comfortable." Um, so he got mad, right? And we had those wall lockers, um, and he had his stereo in the wall locker. So to punish me, he decides to set an alarm on his stereo and put on 3 days grace, and let it, like, an alarm for like 30 minutes or something like that. Turn the stereo all the way up, and when the alarm went off, like, I get up and I'm like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "Cologne, turn that down." And I look, and he's not even there. He finally got a ride to go wherever he was going, but he was going to teach me a lesson. And but he locked his wall locker so I couldn't get into it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like freaking out because I'm tired and everything. And then I realized, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I can unplug his stuff. So I ended up unplugging it. But and then he comes back, and I'm just swearing him up and down. And he's like, "Well, you should have let me borrow your car." And I was like, "I don't owe you my car. It's my car." And he's like, "But I'm your roommate." And I was like, "Doesn't matter. You're not my wife." You know?
Yeah. That was the funny thing about us is we all had funny ways to play pranks and stuff on
Oh
each other.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's what made our time there go by fast.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like man, like I sometimes I think talking to you, I even got like some of the dates like mixed up because we were in Afghanistan in 2004, right? And came back in 2005. Yeah. I think there was one time I was like, I said to you, I was like, yeah, remember in 2003 and 2004? You're like, no, it was 2004 to two. I was like, what the heck? You know?
Yeah.
Because it was almost like I know we got to Fort Hood. I got to Fort Hood in 2003. And then it was like, when exactly did we get to Illesheim, Germany? I know it was like so quick of training, and then as soon as we got to Illesheim, it was like it felt like we were only there for like a couple months, and then we had to deploy. You know.
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to originally. What happened was, is we were supposed to only be at Fort Hood for a certain amount of training to get us ready for Illesheim, and
Mm-hmm.
get us set. But because the people, kind of like I said earlier, the people that we were supposed to replace in Illesheim was taking a little bit longer, so it backed us up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, we're getting closer to the end. What advice would you give a service member preparing to ETS or retire?
let's see. I would honestly say make sure you have a strong support system,
Hmm.
whether it's opening up and getting connected to the VA right away so you have, your insurance all lined up and everything like that when you get out.
Hmm.
Um also, don't be afraid to talk to somebody about what's going on in your head, because
Hmm.
surprisingly they might understand a little bit better than you think. Just because
Right.
they serve the military doesn't mean that they don't understand, because like a lot of us, like, said, like my reason going in was family, a generational thing.
Hmm.
A lot of us have that, and we've experienced living with somebody with it.
Hmm.
So just like I used to tell the spouses when you guys came after the deployment, you guys were coming home, and I was the liaison between the unit and the spouses. Like when I told the spouses before you guys came home, is the people that the guys and the girls that you sent out a year ago aren't the same ones
Right.
that are going to be coming home.
Right.
And don't be afraid, and don't think that your spouses don't love you anymore when, if they're in a trouble or something's going wrong, that they call a buddy that was there with them before they talk to you, because they don't know how to express to you what they've seen, what they
Hmm.
experienced, or anything like that. Just like this last year, you guys became closer, you know and you guys were each other's support system. That's how they developed as well.
Hmm.
So
Right.
you got to learn how to mingle together again.
Right. Yeah. Those are really good points. Are there any resources or organizations that really helped you?
um Surprisingly, the VA.
Mm-hmm.
um that's one thing that when I left the National Guard, I was able to, my chaplain, help me resource out that I to get involved in.
Mhm.
Um, and being a chaplain assistant, we had connections to a lot of resources already, so that
Mhm.
was a beneficial to it. So, but um, wounded warriors, helped out a lot of soldiers a lot of veterans that I talked to.
Mhm.
So, I just joined this last year with them, so I haven't experienced them yet. Um, but I know that they're there to help.
Right.
Um, I, I mean, there's a lot of different little ones that help me,
Okay.
but a lot of it is veterans helping veterans, really.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, we already kind of answered that one. What does being a veteran mean to you personally?
Um, it means that at one time I answered what God wanted me to do.
Mhm.
Um, during that portion of my life that I was in the military, I served not only Uncle Sam, but I served God as well because he had planned ahead for me to meet everybody and the journeys and stuff that I went through. And I fulfilled my obligation not only to my country, but to my God as well.
Mhm. Oh, I like that answer. Because I feel the same way. God, because God works in mysterious ways. Like military was not like something I because it was actually after 9/11. I graduated a year after 9/11, and I had thought about being in the military, but my parents wanted me to do something else, and like I was living in Miami, Florida, and I was trying to apply for so many jobs, um, and it was one time I was at a Publix, and it was kind of like a strip mall kind of thing, and there was a recruiting station, and I was just like, "I'm gonna stop in here and see," I've always wanted to be in the military. I've been, like, drawn to that, and I was supposed to be in the Navy, but I had what stopped me from getting into the Navy was I had a slight heart murmur, and I mean, like, they did rigorous tests to see if it would affect me, and it didn't affect me, so the Navy was like, "No, we don't want him," like, any, like, imperfection the Navy didn't wanna take, you know? And, I thought about being a Marine, but then I was like, "They're the Department of the Navy, so I don't know if they would take me because 'cause they've already rejected me." So I was like, "Army." I went into the, and I went through the whole process with, like, the Navy, like, I went all the way to MEPS, and it was the MEPS doctor that found the heart murmur, which was weird. Um, so it was really easy for the Army 'cause they're like, "Oh, you tried to get into the Navy? Okay, well, we'll get their paperwork," and then I had just gotten back home with my parents, and I was like, "Well, I signed up for the Army," and then I get a phone call, and I'm like, "Who's this number?" And it was the Army. The recruiter was like, yeah, you ready to join tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." You know? I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool, man," But it wasn't my first choice to go into the military. Like, I wanted to, but it wasn't my first choice because I had just recently graduated high school, and my parents didn't my dad wanted me to go to college and at least get in the military as an officer, and my mom didn't want me to be in the military, especially after 9/11, but I had that drive, so all my other options were, not available to me, and I think it was kinda God's work. He knew what I wanted, and all that. So
Well, I went in. My birthday is the 10th of September, so and then the 11th the towers got hit.
yeah.
I went into the recruiter the day that the towers got hit, as when I did mine, but I was in delayed entry because I refused to go before I wanted to graduate that semester of
Hmm.
college before I went in. And I went in and my recruiter was laughing because I went in and I sat down. You know how during maps you go in and your recruiter takes you in and you talk to somebody higher up about getting your MOS and stuff and picking your
Right.
one. Well, I was in there and the it was a staff sergeant.
Hmm.
Oh no, sorry, sergeant first class.
Okay.
And he goes, well, he goes, so what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a chaplain assistant. 56 Mike. He
Hmm.
goes, well, I don't know if any of those are open. And he's like, are you trying to get, are you trying to go right away or what are you trying? I said, I have 4 more months on my um before I graduate, and I want to graduate from the semester before I deploy out. And he goes, well, I don't know if we can get you in. I said, well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. Either you can get me in as a 56 Mike and not something else because that's not me, or I can walk out and go over to the Air Force or somewhere else and get what I want because I know that's what I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
And my recruiter takes me out. He goes, well, you go to lunch with your recruiter and I'll see what I can do. I went with my recruiter and he goes, you can't talk to them like that. I said, no, you can't talk to them like that. I can because I'm still a civilian. So we went to lunch and I came back because they were putting a lot of the females in the 88 mic positions
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
cooks.
Right.
And I refused to be one of them.
Hmm.
And so I came back after lunch and he goes, well, you're going to have to be in the delayed entry program for a while because, the towers got hit in 2001. And so he's like, your basic training won't start until February of 2003.
Hmm.
So I was in the delayed entry program for almost 2 years, a year and a half. And I said,
Right.
okay.
Wait a minute. You do realize you and I were in Fort Leonard Wood at the same time, right?
No, I'm
Yeah.
in Michigan.
Oh, you went didn't oh, you didn't go to Fort Leonard Wood for basic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were at we were at Leonard Wood at the same time
Mm.
cuz you went
You're
in
probably on the
February.
other side of the post.
Yeah, cuz I was chemical. Cuz you went in you went
Yeah,
in
you're on the other side
there
of the post.
February, right?
Yeah.
I was there February 19th, 2003.
We were there the same time because that's my date and too.
Yeah. We were probably going through the entry program
The
together
same
and didn't
time.
realize it. Holy crap. I just now realized that.
That's funny.
That is weird. And then we complete a basic and AIT and then end up at the same unit.
You're probably the clown that was getting us all in trouble. No, just joking.
No. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that yeah, when you said February, I was like, wait a minute.
So you know
I was-
about the cattle trucks then?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, I
Man,
know. I know about the cattle trucks, man. Oh,
those things
they
are
don't.
awful. Every time I see a cattle truck trailer now, I'm just like, oh, oh, how many
Yep,
of us they fit in there?
that's what they thought of us. We were just cattle.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Um. So. Okay. So we're about to wrap it up. We got a couple more questions that are a little bit more lighthearted. What was the best MRE for you, and what was the worst MRE for
So I heard you guys talk about this with Thompson, and I was laughing.
you?
Um, so
Please don't say it's the McRib, please.
so It kind of is. It's the stew.
Oh,
I hated the
oh,
stew.
this. Oh,
But the one that I loved the most was the vegetarian ones because they had the candy in them. And as soon as I
mhm.
figured out it had the candy in them, I would always try to get the vegetarian ones for the candy. Nothing else, just for the
Yeah,
candy.
right. They had the snacks.
They had the good snacks in them.
Yeah.
And they always
So
had peanut butter or cheese spread. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah.
I like the peanut butter spreads. That was pretty good. I've actually I've actually done it where you got the flatbread and the flatbread's disgusting,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
would I would um I would be in the field, especially when we were in Czech, because like there was no way to really you didn't have time to heat up everything. So
Mm-mm.
um and it sounds disgusting, but I would take the flatbread and put the peanut butter on it, and it would be like this would be my breakfast, right? And I'm like the breakfast of champions, and I would sprinkle that Folgers instant coffee on top, and it was like it's
Oh.
I'm like it's like chocolate chip. And
Oh.
it was the most disgusting thing, but I was like, I gotta get my caffeine in me. I don't have time to heat up the water to make the coffee. So I'm just gonna make it, and it was disgusting, but it worked, you know.
The crazy things that your question should be, what's the craziest things you did with your MRE? And then
Oh,
you'd get a lot more funnier answers.
oh yeah, that might be a question I need to add for future veteran voices. There you go. Um, so what piece of gear would you never want to carry again?
My rucksack. That thing was heavy as all can be.
Oh yeah.
We weighed that thing. It was 80
Mm-hmm.
pounds. If you had everything that you're supposed to have in it and rolled like it's supposed to be rolled and positioned in the bag like it's supposed to be positioned, we weighed it. It was 82 pounds. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
carried every single time
On our back. Yep.
on our back.
Yep. Not including all the other gear that we
Not
had.
including your mask and all the other stuff
Yeah.
that you had on the side. No.
No. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. And then they invented the Alice pack, and it made it even heavier because it was bigger and you carried more stuff. I think we weighed it was like 175 pounds.
Oh
And
wow.
there's videos of wives trying to put on their husbands' Alice packs, and it's hilarious. They're like falling all over. That one lady, like he showed her how to do it, and she did it, and she did it so fast that it slung her backwards. And
See, your
yeah.
question should be, what was our favorite thing that we went through in basic training? Mine was the gas chamber. It was
Oh
funny, but it's not funny because I had
yeah.
bronchitis when I went in there. When I came out, I didn't have bronchitis.
CS cured bronchitis. Yes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
gas cleared it up.
Right. Right. So, all right. Last question before we wrap this up. Most underrated military skill.
That would have to be maps,
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I would agree. Map reading, land
map
navigation.
reading, and land nav.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which is a skill that everyone should should learn. Like,
We learned it enough to pass it, but then we don't choose not to use it later, and we
right.
kind of need to use it later.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's especially if you're gonna like um I started uh when I did the search and rescue, I started getting more into the land nav map reading and uh, going over it now. I was like, man, why was it so hard for me to get this, you know, get this then? Now I can better understand it. And it's like, I don't know if they didn't teach it right or do it long enough or what. But even trying to explain it to somebody, it's like, man, I feel so stupid trying to explain this because it's so simple, but in your head it's simple, but when you're explaining it, it's
Yeah,
not, you know. But yeah,
that would be the thing I would say is map and land math.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And if well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't support land nav and map reading because if I supported that for everybody to learn that, then search and rescue would never have a job.
True, but it would also make search and rescue easier if everybody knew understood it.
Right. Yeah. That's true too.
It's always a catch 22.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to add before we go ahead and wrap this up, Jenkins?
I honestly would just like to thank you personally for starting this, and following your heart, and giving us a chance to express, how we had went through certain things and stuff, and giving us a chance to, share our stories and stuff. Um, really appreciate you following, your heart and allowing us
Mm,
to follow our heart as well. So, and I appreciate everybody that, tuned in today and,
mhm,
shared their comments and stuff. Surprisingly, things like this actually help us veterans, better ourselves and better our missions.
mhm. Yep. And uh like I said before too, like you never know what your story will do for somebody else, you know. So I appreciate it, Jenkins. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the back while I go ahead and wrap this up. Okay. And I appreciate you doing this interview with me. Um,
No
and
problem.
Moonshot said, great interview. Was great listening to you, Jenkins. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And that concludes Veteran Voices, Jenkins' journey. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's all the time we have for today. Before we go, though, please keep John Mosman in your prayers. I did announce the other day that John is having liver problems. He's in and out of feeling good, and some days he's not feeling good. So he's supposed to be getting ready for a liver transplant consultation, and you guys know what that means. So keep him in your prayers. If you don't know who John Mosman is, he's one of my best friends. Lives out in Colorado, and used to be a debater on YouTube channels. So yeah, because of his health, he had to step back. So keep him in your prayers. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Battlefield Protection Live, Veteran Voices. Remember, life is a battlefield. Prepare to conquer it. God bless everybody.